it can't be a coincidence that Sony secured the PS4 Spider-Man developer the same week that they've pulled the rug from under the MCU. Can't be a coincidence. By the end of Avengers Endgame, it looked like Spider-Man was being set up to be a central figure replacing Iron Man. Not that he would like get an Iron Man suit or something, although
he does have the Iron Spider suit.
Yes, he's been bequeathed all this technology from Tony Stark. And actually, after I wrote about this, I saw Spider-Man Far From Home, and dude, he got even more Tony Stark shit in that movie, like even more. Okay, so ever since Captain America Civil War, where a babyface teen Spidey made his debut in the MCU, this whole time the character has just been on lease from Sony Pictures. That's been the case this whole time. While Disney has acquired the rights for 20th Century Fox's Marvel characters like the X-Men and Fantastic Four, it's not the same for Spider-Man. I mean, it all kind of seems like, well, if they got those guys, Spider-Man's in too, and it's like, no, not really. The more prominent Spider-Man is in the MCU, the more leverage Sony has when negotiating with Disney. It sounds like when renegotiating the future terms for the Spider-Man deal, Disney overplayed their hand and Sony backed out. That's kind of what it seems like. I'll go further in here. So Disney allegedly wanted to co-finance 50-50 the next few Spider-Man movies in exchange for 50% of the profits, where previously Disney was getting 5% of the first dollar gross of Spider-Man, Homecoming, Far From Home. There were no further negotiations or better deals put forth in favor of Sony after this initial deal that we've heard of. The deal falling through means that for the foreseeable future, Sony will be making separate movies without any coordination with Marvel Studios' bigwig producer Kevin Feige. The link between the future Sony Spider-Man movies with Venom, Morbius, etc., with the Marvel Cinematic Universe has been severed. With Spider-Man Far From Home grossing $1.1 billion, Sony must think financially they can stand on their own feet, taking away input from Disney. The thing is, if you see Spider-Man Far From Home, there's a lot of MCU elements in that. You got Samuel L. Jackson as Nick Fury. You have like the remnants of
you have Happy from
yeah.
Iron Man.
I mean, I think if there wasn't an MCU connection to this movie, it would have probably chipped away at least 20% of the box office.
Easily, especially considering how Disney was boasting about this is the real end of the Infinity Saga. This is the real end of Phase 3 and stuff like that. They were really heavily pitching this movie as like Endgame was Endgame, but it wasn't the last movie in Phase 3. Like this is that goes to Far From Home, where you're going to see the fallout of everything that happened after Endgame and stuff like that.
This sounds just dicey for Sony.
It really does, especially since
they'll have more control over their own IP. I think that's kind of what Sony wants. They want control over their damn IP, and maybe they're feeling like they're getting like cucked by Disney.
I think they're mad. Like this is my whole theory on this. They're mad because not only did Disney come in and make the highest grossing Spider-Man movie they've ever, they also made the highest grossing film Sony's ever distributed. Like, Sony's mad. Sony's like, you motherfuckers, you come in, we let you use our property, and not only this made more than even the Sam Raimi movies, and I'm sure you could do a comparison on ticket prices between the early 2000s and now, and see that it probably stands up to that statement as well. And They're mad. They're straight up mad. They're taking their toys and going home. Like you made a better you made a better movie than we ever could and ever have, and it's proven in the fact that this is the highest grossing movie Sony has ever released, and it wasn't even made by Sony.
Right.
And I gotta tell you, man, that movie, like I said, for me, it's up there with the best of the MCU. There've been like over 20 of those movies. It's like top 5 material. Totally. Okay, so as much as we'd like everyone to get along with, the MCU juggernaut, business conflicts have created a setback here. Okay, so Sony has every right to back out of this if they feel like they're not getting a good deal. Fans have a right to protest on the internet, wanting everything Marvel simultaneously active.
Well, I mean, MCU. Supposedly they're still talking. That's why we haven't gotten an official statement from Disney. Like, the whole official statement from Sony was a power play, in my opinion. Like, them trying to get people on their side of things.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Disney's just staying quiet about the whole thing. Like, we're not done talking. We're not making a statement yet. That's my opinion on this matter, because I have heard that talks are still are still being done right now. So while everybody's throwing hate at Disney because of Sony's statement, like, I'm just sitting back here waiting because I smell bullshit. Like, something stinks in the wind, and
yeah,
and Sony's the only one blowing wind right now.
Right.
Yeah, so this movie production skirmish could be the start of something else, and could just be the first round of negotiations while both sides see reactions on the internet. Imagine if this had happened days before San Diego Comic-Con. What would that be like?
Instead, it happened days before Disney's Entertainment Expo D23, which we're going to be getting into here in a bit.
Okay, the MCU is planning to focus on more storylines away from Earth with other cosmic races and forces, while Sony Spider-Man is going to be grounded back on Earth at home. If he will be left behind... Okay, if he will be left behind is yet to be seen. I've always pictured Spider-Man as, he's tied to New York, like the Ninja Turtles, Teenage Mutant, yes, and the Ghostbusters. They're all superheroes.
Questionable on that last group, but
okay, but it just sounds like the MCU they want to it sounds like they're going to focus more on like shit from outer space, basically. You know what I mean? Stuff that we've never heard of. A lot of mainstream people have never heard of or don't know anything about, like the Eternals. I know pretty much nothing about the Eternals. There was some announcement today that Kit Harington is going to play.
We heard that he was going to be joining the MCU, and just recently today, it got announced that he will be joining the cast of the Eternals.
And also, it sounds like the actor who played Robb Stark on Game of Thrones is also going to be in Eternals. Something that I saw. Something else that also came up since I wrote this is that Sony owns the film rights to Spider-Man, but Disney owns the TV rights to Spider-Man. So potentially they could have their own Spider-Man TV series, which might not even have Tom Holland in it or something. But there's just some loophole there that exists because Disney owns the TV rights.
Interesting.
Yeah, just all this shit. It's far from over. I wouldn't believe that it's over. Like, there's so much stuff at stake. Touchy subject.
Marvel reportedly wants Spider-Man Far From Home director John Watts in the Sony Marvel Spider-Man divorce. While the writers of Far From Home, Chris McKenna and Eric Summers, are coming back to write the next Spider-Man film for Sony, it looks like director John Watts may be suspended between Sony and Marvel Studios, like a fly caught in a spider's web. That's a bad joke. So apparently he's being courted by Marvel Studios, but it's unclear if the studio wants him to direct or if his team we don't know what they want him to do specifically, like what franchise they would want him for specifically. But yeah, they're trying to court him away from Sony and try to get him to join Marvel.
Interesting. Caught in between mom and dad.
Just to say, Sony is this big underdog in any of this. Okay, man, because
anyone that goes up against Disney.
yeah, they really are. I mean, they're just kind of grasping at Spider-Man, like please let us make more money from Spider-Man. Disney,
honestly,
please,
you know,
please.
like once Sony recoups its losses from buying up Fox and stuff like that, how much you want to bet Sony's next?
Wouldn't doubt it.
or like there's been this whole rumor that Disney's going to buy Warner Brothers for a while now. Personally, I support this because I wouldn't mind seeing DC and Marvel integrated under one big umbrella.
Yeah,
I've mentioned this multiple times already. I'm a big fan of that idea. But yeah,
we can get some better DC movies going.